Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Today, a bit of a promotion. If you are one of those people who have been suffering mental health or just interested in the practicing of mental health, because a lot of people have been put under pressure and a lot of people may not even realize just how susceptible they are to the pressures that are going on in this world, and they may have mental health issues and not really know it. Well, perhaps you want to attend something to find out more about it. I'm delighted to say that I have with me to discuss this event that's coming up, free to all, online, is Maureen Fearon, and she joins me now. Hello, Maureen.
Hello. Thank you, Richard, for
It's lovely to have you on. Now, this is a World Council for Health. They are friends of the show um, event, and it's happening online. So it's free, and people can come over from wherever they were to learn all about it. And it's on Saturday, the 15th of March. I just thought I'd get those things out nice and early. So tell us just first of all, before we go into actually what the event is about. Tell us a little bit. I mean, I said in the introduction that some people may have mental health issues and not even know. Is that is a true situation, isn't it?
yeah, an awful lot of people do. And if we look at the stats, they tell us 1 in 4 people will have mental health issues this year. So that's a lot
Wow,
of people. But
that's a lot.
yeah, but what we normally do is we cope with life and we press it inside and keep going.
Hmm.
And keep pressing it inside. So we might have unwanted events, let's call them, that come in and we'll force them inside, another few and force them inside. And then all of a sudden, you might find a tipping point where
Right.
all of a sudden I can't cope. All of a sudden I broke down. Well, it's not always all of a sudden. It can be with a big, huge slap to life.
Yes.
Normally there's a gradual build up. And whilst we keep talking about that, we don't have a stigma, let's talk about mental health, etc. There is a stigma. There is a huge stigma because we're not educating people around mental health, what it is, and how to address it for ourselves and also for the people that we care about. A lot of people will put more effort into helping somebody that they care about's mental health than their own.
Hmm. Well, and is that because people can't see it? Is it one of those things because you can't see the ailment? If someone's broken their leg, you go, "Oh, let me help you here," etc. But people aren't; they can't see it. People don't admit to it, and they may not even know it, and so therefore it goes unnoticed, and people don't know to offer help. And I suppose it's quite rude. It would seem to be quite rude if somebody said, "I think you need mental health."
It can be the best insult that you can give
Right?
to a bully, for example. So we want to stop bullying behavior or
Yes.
horrid narcissistic behavior or rude behavior. And one of the best things that you can do is to say, look, I know a really good therapist that will be able to help you have a better life.
But do you think that goes down well? I mean, if someone's bullying and you turn around and say that to them, then they go, "Shut your face."
Exactly. Well, normally they're so stunned, it keeps them quiet whilst you escape from them. But
Yes.
we don't understand our men, and we do still have a stigma. Because if we think about it on a simple but logical level, if you've got a mental health issue, and we're talking about, I can't cope, can't think straight, I'm overwhelmed, can't stop crying. When we think of a state like that, it's not our most empowered, powerful states, and it makes people feel uncomfortable around us.
Mm.
And so it goes to the core of us, it goes to the core of our self-worth. When we're in really bad we're not terribly capable because we can't do the things that we used to be able to do. Not for everybody, but for a big chunk of people with mental health issues, when we can't cope, can't think straight, or we're we're so sensitive that tackling everybody that's around us. And so we don't want to admit that, because it's kind of like admitting that I'm not a very nice person. I'm not a very capable person. And it goes down to the roots of survival. If we think about in the old dinosaur days, and people were in packs, and if, say, for example, you had to leave behind the weakest link, let's say, who would it be? It's the one that you can't rely on to mentally
Yes.
be sharp. So we've got all of that going around, and we've also got, how do you deal with it?
Mm.
And like you say, it's a very, there's nothing worse than trying to help somebody when they don't want it.
And do people, I don't know, put this another way, how many people who may well be suffering from mental health would reach out for help?
Very few. Very few, because again, that's another complicated business. Well, what is the help that you reach out for? Now,
Right.
what we're familiar with, and what is mainly in the NHS, is the talk-based therapy. Now, a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable, or even re-traumatizes them to talk about the problem. And sometimes it can actually, it's like, all right, okay, your hour's up, and you could actually walk away feeling worse. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying, but I was at a conference well before lockdown, and at an NHS conference, that is, and they were talking about the effectiveness of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And they were talking about how it was less than 50% successful. And that was more successful than counseling. Well, in my simple mind, that is, well, it don't work, does it? And And in 2014, NHS Stafford, Professor Tony Stewart did a study on depression using the technique called EFT, emotional freedom techniques, where people can gently tap on acupressure points to help rebalance the emotional system, the electricity system within. And that study got 97% success. I said, why didn't it get 100%?
It
Because
wasn't
I
tapping hard enough.
well, no, it was because they didn't use seasoned EFT specialists. They used
Right.
people that were kind of like rookies, new to it. But still, 97% versus
Yes.
less than 50 is significant. So that was back in 2014. Now, it's not for everybody. EFT, for example, that modality, it's not for everybody. But for those that could be helped with it, it is something safe that
Mm.
can easily be taught, and people can use it in the safety of their own environment as and when they need it.
And
As
it's, I mean, that's not just a sort of belief based thing that by doing the various tap, I mean, it's a sort of physiology, the word
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't say,
Physiologically, yeah,
fizzy
it makes
drinks.
yeah, because it's working with the body's acupressure system, the
Right.
calming system. But even so, there'll be skeptics out there, I know, and often the skeptics have never really tried it, or they've tried it themselves and they've not worked. So it's like me saying, "Do you know what? I tried brain surgery. Did you? Yeah, it didn't work. Well, who did you try? Oh no, I just had to go myself." It's like, well, yeah, of course it's not going to work. And so when you actually work with it, of course, there's training
Mm.
to actually get the best results. But you can actually use it as a coping mechanism. But even if you don't believe it or it doesn't work, the placebo effect. You've heard of the placebo effect?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, placebo effect. I think I read somewhere, because there's loads of different papers on these things, and I'm sure I read somewhere that it was more um, more useful in terms of healing than a medication on a certain
And
study.
and you mentioned medication. I mean, a lot of people just think I'll go to the GP and I'll take a pill, and you know, this is what a lot of what it seems to me a lot of the new health people are beginning to sort of realize is not always the answer. And the other thing is people expect a result like that.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you use EFT properly, you do actually get a result as
Oh,
quick.
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I've been doing it since I use a range of modalities, but EFT I came across in 2008 thinking, well, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Has to be a con. It can't work that way. And I tried it on myself with an asthma attack. So I have mild asthma, or I used to, that was triggered by cigarette smoke and by pet hair. And I used to have pets. So one night, after coming in from the pubs when the pubs were smoking, and sat having a cup of cocoa, and with Mrs. Doyle on my knee, Mrs. Doyle's a cat. Mrs. Doyle was sat on my knee, and my noisy breathing began. And it's like that's what happened after a night out in and around the smoke.
Right.
And so I thought, I'll try this tapping thing. Had no training and just tapped. And in 4.5 minutes, my breathing was back to normal.
That is staggering.
Yeah, and I thought, yeah, it's just coincidence.
Right.
And I know my breathing pattern, so I know what will happen. I'll go to bed, it'll get worse, it'll wake me up around about 2:30, and then it'll start to settle around about 4, and then I'll fall back to sleep. Well, that didn't happen. I slept all the way through. And I just thought, interesting. But then there was another time where I was stuck at traffic lights. And have you ever noticed traffic lights these days keep you stationary for an awful lot longer than they used to? Anyway, I had lower back pain. And I thought, right, if you're any good, let's see what you can do with this. Handbrake was on, so I was completely safe. And within the change of a traffic light, my backache went
Wow.
back. This is odd. And so I decided to go and find out and sign on to a course with a lady called Tanya Prince. So I went and signed on to her course to see what it was all about, because I was an absolute skeptic, thinking there's got to be a con. This is really strange. And what I saw on that day, and there was another guy as well from Ireland, a wonderful guy. He owned a payroll business. I'll always remember. And he and I were like, we're here because we like can't work it out. There's got to be kind of like something wrong with all of this. And what we saw was just staggering. Now, back in 2008, I didn't truly understand this whole emotional system that we have. And I'm happy, upbeat. I like to be like yourself and the lovely Juliet, like to be as happy as much as I can. But there are times where, life gives us a slap, and that's fine. But I'm happy. I had no idea how much emotion under the surface that I had unresolved, going through grief, relationship breakdown, childhood stuff that you don't even realize is in. So yeah, the process is really in the expert hands is really powerful. People can use it as a coping mechanism for themselves. And we're going to have a demonstration. The event that we have is full of demonstrations, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But we're also going to have another Tanya, who is going to be demonstrating her mindfulness-based inner repatterning, which incorporates a gentle tapping here, which is an emotional reboot button, if you like. And
Wow.
we've seen this happen across the world when there's been earthquakes and there's devastation, and you see people banging, they're absolutely bursting with emotion, and they're banging on here as the body's mechanism to try and manage it all. Because if we know, and it's said that our emotions are electricity. So if we've got so much emotions going off, then we need to be. Otherwise, we'll be like a firework, and and some people don't.
Explode. Yeah,
Yeah,
do on that. So that, but business then, they're not trained to know. They don't know that. It's just instinctive
yeah,
within. Yeah.
yeah. There's lots of things that we do instinctively that people have no that can be taught. So, for example, when people go to a funeral,
Yes.
when people go to if you're in a good place emotionally, you can observe others, and other people, you'll spot the ones that are trying desperately to not cry because they want to hold it all together. Right, and their body, that's their intention. Try desperately, do whatever it takes. So some will be pinching themselves to create pain, so as a distraction.
Oh right.
And you
Gosh.
and you might even see people with their eyes stretching up to the ceiling, and what they might never tell you is that they're trying to find something funny. And that's not disrespecting the funeral or the person, the deceased. It's to keep what I'm doing, whatever it takes, to stay composed, because
Yes.
that's how I want to respectfully attend this person's funeral. So you'll actually see the eyes. Now, in the world of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, you've probably heard of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a hypnotic thing.
No, it's a huge body of work.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's totally misrepresented. It's amazing, and one of the elements of learning is the understanding of the relationship that we have with our eyes and our emotional system.
But it's hard for somebody who's lost an eye. Then I've
No,
still
it'll
got
still
one.
work. No, it'll
Oh.
still work because your other one will work.
Oh, good.
And so our eyes move to the ceiling, side to side, and to the floor. So if say in very it's a training module, very brief. If we're looking downwards, if you imagine the floor is split into two, one side is what we call the pool of emotion, and the other side is how we talk to ourselves. So if you imagine, you probably heard of the mind minions. I like to turn
The
things
mind minions. I haven't.
minions. Yeah,
Yes.
we've all got mind minions that take
Okay.
our instructions. And
Right.
those instructions can be through our thoughts, our vocal words, or even how we move our eyes. And so when we're looking down to the floor, and if they go to the side where the emotions are, our mind will generate emotions. The minions bring on the emotions. So when we're looking down and feeling emotional, looking down, feeling down, we'll keep feeling worse until we lift our eyes away, because that's
Right.
the data that we're processing. And so when we lift our eyes away from the floor, lifting our eyes away from emotion. And so that's what people do when they're at funerals. They instinctively kind of like connect with, keep your eyes off the floor and look up to the ceiling.
Right. So that's
You know,
not, if somebody sees somebody sort of looking up there, it's not them rolling their eyes or sort of being disrespectful. They're actually lifting away from those sort of lower emotions.
yeah, they're lifting. It's a mechanism to move
Right.
away from generating emotions inside. Now, sadly, on one hand, I was brought up as a Catholic. In the so I only know the kind of Christian faith. Often, in a ceremony, we are asked to bow our heads. So
I see.
if we're bowing our heads, our eyes are going into that
Okay.
self-talk and emotional pool. So if you're feeling a little bit rocky, a little bit upset, looking down is going to make it worse.
Oh, right. How interesting.
So, quite simply, one of the things we can do for ourselves and other people, if they're in emotional distress, whether it's upset, anger, or whatever, have their eyes, check where their eyes are. Once you've heard about this, you'll notice it, and you'll notice people and what they do with their eyes.
Mm.
Just help them by getting them to look up, by even simply saying, "Oh, look at that over there," and they'll go, "Oh, what?" And it'll
Yeah,
pop.
I mean it's interesting if you're looking for inspiration, you look up, don't you? You know,
Yes.
so you're sitting there and somebody says, ask you a question and say, how can we do such and such? And you're like, and you immediately look up for inspiration. And if it's really bad news, you sort of go, oh dear, that's terrible. I mean, just it just seems a very natural thing to do.
And it is a very natural thing to do. When I'm teaching an NLP, I say, imagine on the ceiling,
Yes,
it's everything to do with vision, video,
right.
pictures. So if you want to try and create something, your eyes are going up. If, say, for example, you want to do something on a more logical level, compute something, or so if you want to remember something, you want to remember the map of where we're going tomorrow, you might look up and see the map. Or you might want the instructions. Well, what are the roads? What is the motorway? And then the A road that I want. If you have your eyes going towards your ear line, though your minions go to the visual warehouses from ear to ear, they go to the warehouses with sound, detail, and computing and analyzing. So
Ah,
anytime we want to work out something, you'll notice people's eyes will do that. So if you're in conversation with somebody and you're flowing and then they go like that, you kind of understand that they're trying to work something out.
right. So in a way, this is quite useful. I mean, just on a side note, if you're watching somebody and you can sort of read them, read their thoughts a little bit by watching what their eyes do. So you can sort of, I mean, I was just thinking how rude it would look if someone's just given you some very bad news. I'm ever so sorry, but your mother has just died, and they start looking up, but they're looking up to try and keep their spirits up, but it may look as if they don't give a monkeys. It's like,
Oh,
oh really? Oh well, that's so bad news, but I'm all right about it.
but do you know, Richard, it's worse than that. I remember working with a young lady who, on hearing about somebody dying, for some reason had developed this hysterical laughter response.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And so it doesn't matter who it is, it's an
Yeah,
automatic response. It wasn't Tourette's, but it's that kind of response.
right. Like
And
a
I remember,
nervous thing.
but not even
No,
nervous.
no, no.
Yeah, it's just like, and then that's can't stop. Now her family were all aware of that, and it was acceptable because that's just her.
They knew. Yes, if you understand it, but gosh.
Yeah. And we were working one day on whatever problem I can't remember, and there was a little bit of time left, and she said, "Oh, next time I want you to help me with this." So I said, "Oh, right, let's have a look. Let's see what we can do now." So, because we had about 10 minutes spare. So we did some work on it. And I'm so grateful that we did, because soon after that, I think it was her grandma's partner died. And it would not have been accepted for her to laugh.
No, of course. Well, of course it wouldn't.
Even though the family did it,
Yeah.
she was able to hear the news and stay calm and balanced.
Wow. Yeah.
And that is the potential that we have. I mean, I'm so grateful that I've learned it. Otherwise, I quite literally don't know where I'd be. I'd be on definitely be on medication. But we can reprogram our response system. So we can reprogram our mental health, our responses. We've got too many fears. So many people are so scared of so much, especially because of the last 5 or 6 years,
Mm.
has really created fear that's under the conscious understanding. So they don't even know that what they've got is a fear. But it leaks out when you know what you're looking for. It leaks out in, like you say, what people are doing with their eyes. And so, how are you today, Maureen? How are you feeling? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. So now you know if somebody does that, it's like, oh, there's something
Mm.
emotional going on there. And so a lot of people don't realize how much fear is under the surface that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
So we
Well,
can
I
change
mean,
that.
we absolutely. I was going to say we all have what was the word I was going to use? Irrational,
Unnecessary. Yeah,
irrational,
irrational,
irrational
unnecessary.
fears for
Yeah.
things and we worry about things that will never happen, or we've got to face something in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and we're worrying about it today, but not necessarily. You can't do anything, but you're still worrying about it.
Yeah, and worrying can be a habit. Many, many years ago, I ran a workshop uh, to stop people worrying. Because I think there's a phrase, worrying is like a rocking horse instead of a car. There's an awful lot of activity, but it won't get you very far.
Won't get you very. No, that's very good.
And, and,
So,
and and we learn all these patterns, but we can unlearn them and we can break them if we want to.
and are we learning them from those people around us? Like, as we're brought up by our mums and dads, and then our friends and colleagues.
Yeah, we copy behavior, and we copy behavior at an age where we don't even realize that we're
Mm.
copying. We just automatically do it. So, for example, we often copy the parents because they're the ones that look after us, protect us, feed us, etc. They're very important to us, and we also don't want them to reject us. So
Mm.
we have an innate understanding that if I'm like them, they're more likely to like me and not reject me.
Yes.
So whatever that is, I mean, we see, it can be
And
copied.
that can be quite terrible, because in some respects, because if you're I'm just thinking on my feet here, and there's no one in particular in my mind, but if you have somebody who's not a particularly good parent, or nasty personality, and your son or daughter starts exhibiting those things, it's the son or daughter might think, I'm being like my mum and dad, but the mum and dad might be thinking, what an awful child. And you've got a spiral then.
Yeah, and but we don't even teach parents.
No.
It's a tough job to be a parent. I remember going into becoming a manager when I was a teenager, and that was hard enough. But that was only 35, 40 hours a week. A parent, you're a manager 24/7
Yes.
without any training. And the people that you're managing do not have to apply by the rules of their job and have the fear of being sacked. That babies are born to get what they want, when they want it, whatever it takes.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, we'll get onto the event in a second, but is that because we live in a very stressed world? Because it just seems weird that we have all these issues, and yet we've managed to survive, sort of. Yeah, but if you were to go back, I suppose, to hunter-gatherers and things, in which you didn't have a job, and the only thing you really had to worry is that saber-toothed tiger going to come and get me once in a blue moon, or is there enough berries or enough food around, and you could laze about and enjoy yourself? So presumably they were quite well adjusted.
Yeah, they would not have had the fears and the stresses and the anxieties that we have today, that we've developed today. And there may be, a bigger picture where, there may be, let's say, a committee that wants us to be like this because
Mm.
we're easily manipulated when we're not of our own independent mindset. If
Well, I would
yeah,
definitely say there is a committee of some sorts that a lot of my viewers will know about, trying to control us and keep us down, and so therefore being armed with the ammo of understanding how to get rid of this, or to control it or manage it, and improve oneself, so that you're not so fearful of all the mainstream media and the fear mongering and all those other things that have been thrown at. I mean, particularly on your phone. I mean, people who look at their phone, the amount of fear that you just see scrolling on various websites is phenomenal. I mean, no other time in history, surely, were people so bombarded with fear messages.
and people don't realize as well that looking, I think it was in the 50s, there was the BBC when television just kind of like was coming in and it's like all this, oh, fabulous. And they were throwing in subliminal messages, as Columbo called them, the subliminal cut. There was an episode where he actually showed these subliminal cuts where they were watching a film and then there was just kind of like one frame within, I don't know, the 50 frames per second that people's conscious mind might not catch, but their
Mm.
unconscious catches. Because we've got a we don't even understand how our minds work and how information gets into our mind. We don't want people to know that
No.
because if they do, they'll protect us putting messages in there. And so people don't realize everything, whether it's a soap, adverts, the subliminal influence is profound.
Yes.
And people become what they watch. And so in the 50s, BBC decided because this subliminal cut was too powerful, it wasn't ethical, we're going to stop it.
No. I mean, they say, if you, it's funny, if you even look at old films. I watched an old film with Terry Thomas, 1950s something, and you think, even an old comedy, a simple Ealing comedy or whatever it was of that era, surely is a safe thing to watch. And yet there was a scene in which he was a manager of pharmaceutical products, and there was just a couple of little moments where he said, and I don't know what was going on at the time in history when the film came out, but there was something about what we would now use the word medical intervention, beginning with the V, and you might use a Hoover of the same first few letters. And he mentioned these things and saying, "Oh yes, they're it's vital that we get them out." And I suddenly went, "Oh my God." And so these messages are everywhere, but they're also in the street, aren't they? Keep off the grass, don't do this, follow this thing, stand here, wait for the thing. And the worst things are these instructional messages of, order it today. And you go, instead of, you can order it today if you'd like to, we're available. It's order it today. And it's like, do this.
And that's
And
because it's an instruction.
yes,
We don't realize is human beings are instructable, whether we like it or not. If we're human, that's how the mind, that's why in an emergency, people's language gets shorter and out come shouted instructions, and people follow the instructions without even thinking whether I should or whether I shouldn't. That's for the majority of people. And also, I remember being on a train, well, it was on a train station to start with, and I'll talk to anybody. So I got talking to this chappie. He just looked like a very ordinary chappie, but he wasn't. He was a health and safety trainer within British Rail or whatever it's called now. And we just getting chatting, and I was telling him about don't, the power of don't.
oh yes.
Are you aware of the power of don't?
I am, because you
All
spoke to
right, good.
Julia about it at an event, and we've been trying it out, and it's so true.
It's really powerful. So for your audience, if I say don't look now, guess who's behind you? What do you want to do? Exactly.
Exactly.
So if you imagine the word don't dissolves and the mind minions listen to what comes next, which is an instruction, look now.
Yeah.
In that nanosecond, we've behaved before we thought, do I want to or not?
Yes.
Look now and guess. So we are a mindset that has to find answers. And so I was telling him about it. So I said, so just think about all your safety notices that begin with don't. And he went white.
Probably hundreds of the bloody things.
He went, oh my God. It's going to cost a fortune. When you see don't drink and drive,
Right. What is it telling you? Oh, yes, I'll just have
don't
another
drink and
one.
drive. Yeah,
One for the road.
yeah. Don't drive tired.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're not really encouraged to be spreading these messages. Um,
Yes.
but
But you could argue that the other side know that and are using those messages, the power of don't, because it looks so harmless. But actually, it could be. I mean, the one that I speak about, and I've spoken about this a few times, and people say, "Oh, shut up, Richard," is the thing about the tobacco industry, because on tobacco products, and I don't know any other product in which, in theory, you have a choice to smoke or not. Now, I'm not saying that smoking is good or bad for your health. I'm not making that argument. It's entirely up to you. But they have this 50% or more of the packaging is an instruction. And I believe it's an instruction to your subconscious to make you ill. That it's not so much the substance itself, which may or may not make, people can make their own decisions on that, but the government have muscled in to tell you they don't want you to take this thing. And you think it's not on bleach, it's not on alcohol, it's not on other things that are in the house. And they're telling you if you do this, this is the consequence. And it's so big and so stuck. And it just makes me wonder, is that what's harming people more than the product itself?
well, it might even be, and I don't know, it might even be more orchestrated. Thinking about when do most people start smoking? When they're young, they want to grow up and they're defiant because it's like, and that's what I'm going to do. And so it could even be if you've got a defiant muscle, even if it was born when you in your system when you were 10 to 12 or 4, whatever, and it's like I'm grown up now, I don't really need it, but it'll still be a muscle in there. And if
Mm,
somebody tells you what to do, you go, no one tells me what to do. Because
yes.
we might have said to ourselves when we're 7, when I'm grown up, no one's, I'm sick to death of rules. When I'm grown up, no one's telling me what to do. And so if anyone tells me what to do, I'll go and do the absolute opposite, even if the absolute opposite is bad for us.
Yes.
It's what we do.
Yes. It's what we well exactly, and of course those people in the freedom movement now we're a bit vulnerable to all of this because if you say if for example there was another lockdown and it was actually beneficial, we'd all be going, I'm not doing that. Don't, if the government tells us to do it, we'd all be going, no, 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 we're not doing that because we know it wasn't a good thing. So it puts you in a bit, we're all messed up. So tell us about this online event that
Yeah.
you've got, which is free, and people can explore more of this as we've been talking about in this conversation. Understanding mental health solutions with experts on the 15th of March. So
Yeah.
give us the big sales thing. Not that you need to sell it because people can just go there for nothing.
Absolutely. It's being hosted by the World Council for Health British Isles, and we want to empower people with knowledge so that they can make their best choices. And so we're going to have a range of modalities so that people can learn a variety of strategies, either for themselves. There are professionals who want to get better results when they're working with people with mental health issues. So it's for them as well to add to their toolkit. And also for people who want to be helping other people, like the family and the friends, their loved ones. And so it's for all of those, that as an audience. And each and every speaker is demonstrating. They're not stand because I've been to lots and lots of conferences where they come on stage and they tell you what the problem is and how bad the problem is and how you can't do anything about it and have a nice day. None of that. We're having, let's see, identify what your problem is. You don't even have to because the mind can work in very mysterious ways and
Mm,
get results. We're looking at how you focus, how you can use this exercise, let's call them, to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. So we're having it's an interactive. Every speaker is an interactive session where the audience can take part and have a go and see what positive changes. So even if somebody's completely in a good place with their mental health and it's like, I'm curious, I want to learn how I can help somebody else, or I want to add it to my toolkit as a counselor, practitioner, whatever, then they also will be able to get a benefit because we've all got unresolved issues in our system. And so, but it's fascinating. There's nothing more fascinating than understanding behavior. And so we've got a wide variety of things. It's going to create a buffet, if you like, of tools that people can use whenever they need it. So it might be in the moment, something unexpected happens. They'll have a tool to be able to go, right, keep my eyes still, breathe, and then get the mind to do what I need the mind to do. Or another time it might be that I'm so overwhelmed, I'm going to give myself half an hour and I'm going to try this or I'm going to try that, and then can work to reduce the whatever that problem is. It could be I've got a meeting tomorrow and I'm absolutely petrified. I feel sick. That happens a lot. A lot of
Mm.
people, for example, when they're in a group meeting at work and they know they're going to have to speak, go into trauma. And I remember, I don't know, I've been doing this now 20 years, and I remember probably about 12, 30, 40, 50, whenever, this lady, I was teaching presenting skills, and this lady had to take part every month at these area meetings. And at the area meetings, she would have to present for about 10 minutes, that's all. But she would lose, in her words, 3 days of her life. The day before, she'd be an absolute wreck, can't focus, can't think, can't eat. On the day, just be in a completely horrible place and just living on the adrenaline system. And then the day after, absolutely fatigued because all of that emotional stuff drains our energy system,
Yes,
our
yes.
battery. So she used to lose 3 days a month because she had to speak in a meeting for 10 minutes. I mean,
It's
how mad is
crazy. Yeah, I know.
that? It's what happens. None of that is necessary. It is real, so that's the person's real experience,
Mm.
and they might not believe that anything else is possible. But it's like, what would you like to have? Imagine there's a magic wand. What would you like to have? Could be, I worry a lot. I self-doubt. Self-doubt is a great big one at the moment. There are so many people doubting themselves, and it's ruining their day-to-day life, their career prospects, because self-doubt stops you asking for things that are rightfully yours. And so we want people to be empowered in a healthy way. So the day is going to be, and we've got some qigong in there as well. So
Somewhat.
qigong,
What, could you just tell me what that is? That sounds like some Chinese crackers or something.
yeah, it's the ancient art of using movement with energy.
Right.
It's
Okay.
fascinating. I only came across it through my. I used to be taking part with People's Health Lines (PHA) Wellbeing Wednesdays, and lovely lady Robin introduced me to qigong, and it's like, oh, it is fast. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And if you've never
Okay.
come across it, it's like, oh my gosh, even just knowing 2 minutes of a tiny little thing I can do with that could be a lifesaver. So we've got a wide variety. It's a real buffet of methodologies that work.
And that's the key thing, isn't it? That I mean that they work, and it's and they can work. Not maybe not everything works for everybody, but certain things will work. They'll find something from it.
Yeah.
So it's on the 15th, but is it recorded? Can if people can't make that day, can they access it after the event?
Yeah, we're
Or
hoping to record it. So yeah, hopefully it will be accessible after, but it might not because technically you never know what goes wrong.
no, that's true.
And it
So
is quite let's say it's quite controversial because I'm saying this works. This stuff
right,
works. I've got
yes,
since 2008 with one of the modalities where I've seen it have 100% record with everybody that's used it. Whereas, other areas will not like that I'm saying
no.
this. But this is proof. Come and see. Come and
Come
watch
and
what
see. And
happens.
if you said it's interactive, so of course it makes a lot of sense then that people are
Yes.
there at the live time, because I suppose that's one way of showing that it's not faked.
Yeah, and it's the People's Health, the World Council for Health. We've got somebody from the People's Health Alliance on it as well, which is great, very exciting. We want it to be accessible to everybody, and that's why we've made it free of charge. A
Yeah.
conference like this, I saw a bereavement conference being advertised, and it was £160 for the day.
Wow.
And unfortunately, the majority would be this is how it is, and this is how it's getting worse, and da, 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 da. And so This is an absolute gem, and it's open to we want everyone to be able to have the tools so that they can make their best choices, best
Yes.
health choices. You know, it's the mind is an amazing thing, and it's great to be able to teach people so that they can teach the younger generations as well, because they're
Yes.
struggling.
Yes. No, absolutely. And because the younger generations are facing a hell of a lot of issues
Yeah,
that have been arranged for them, let's say, and so that the more tools that they have in their armory, the better, and it saves them having to spend lots of money on other treatments and various things
yeah.
going down, and indeed taking medication, which
I
is,
was
is always the last resort, really. I think, because if you can find another route first, then
but
why
it's
put
but
something
it's
into your
but
body?
it's not anymore. I was looking at some stats, and for in 2023, because it takes me a while to gather stats, doesn't it? 2023, age 8 to 10, 20% of children aged 8 to 10 had a mental health issue. 20%.
20%. My goodness.
Wow. And
Yeah.
23% of an older age group, 17 to 19. And it's like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Especially infants,
And
that's
and
wrong.
and is it, and is that becoming sort of acceptable, that, oh, mental health is something that we've all got to just deal with, rather than actually we can eradicate it if we use the tools, rather
Yeah.
than just going, like so many things is like, oh, it's just a curse of life. Great.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We want a future like that.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, very cleverly, about us learning. When we're children, we learn from the people
Yes.
around us when we're young. When we're around adults with mental health issues, mental health behaviors, no wonder the kids are having challenges because they
Yes.
too are struggling. And unfortunately, the lockdown created such uncertainty. We had the worst, and you very rarely hear this talked about. We had the fear of death. We had children fearing the parents were going to die of this terrible disease.
I mean, it's
Oh,
awful, awful, absolutely,
outrageous.
awful, outrageous messaging.
Yeah, and a lot of children are still affected by, even though we've gone, because just because everything's gone back to normal doesn't mean to say that our mind has reorganized itself to how it used to be. It doesn't work like
Yes.
that. That's
No.
why we have PTSD type of responses. Something happens, so I might see a mouse and scream. Actually, I always scream when I see a mouse, but I'm not scared. I just love it because that's the behavior I copied off my mum. She was scared and she screamed, jumped on a chair. I saw it, saw this mouse, and I thought it was a game, and I too jumped. But I wasn't scared, whereas
No.
petrified. And so
Yeah.
I still have that response all these years later. If I see something unexpected, and it's not just a mouse, if something comes into my vision unexpected, I'll jump and
Right. Yeah.
scream.
I mean, to a degree, it's a certain sort of, to get rid of, out the way.
Yeah, but it's brilliant because I like going on fairground rides and to have that thrill. So
Right.
I have the adrenaline, but I don't have the fear. But an
Don't. Yeah.
awful lot have got the fears that happened through COVID time and they're still under the surface. And that for the children can, not always, but can have an impact on everything. Self-doubt, holding themselves back, going introverted because it's like it's not safe. So if we think about it's not safe, then they're going inside themselves. And then because they're not communicating, an awful lot of people, it's the easiest thing to do to say, well, I think you're on the spectrum or you've got ADHD. And, there's your label. Thank you
There's your
very much.
label. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
don't know
And
how to deal with you. So here's a label. It's not my responsibility.
quite. And these labels are a real pain in the bum. I believe, because once you've been labelled, that's it. You suddenly, that nobody's looking for any other cure or answer or help. It's like, oh well, you're stuck with that. That's yours.
Yeah. And also, once people have that label, they've got an excuse.
Well,
They
yes,
don't
that's
have
the
to
end. Oh, I
work
can't do
one.
that because I'm this, that, and the other. So, and you can't touch me, and I need a handout, and I'm now just, whatever. So, listen, we better draw this to a conclusion. Saturday, 15th of March, online. I'll put there's tickets available on the for the online mental wellbeing conference. I think you've called it. on Ticket Tailor. And I'll put a link in the description so people can go and immediately and log on. There's no limit to the numbers, I take it. And, you can just as many people as you can get on there, really, on the
Well,
day.
we might actually limit it. We might actually
Right.
limit it. So, yeah,
Okay.
it
But
will
I
be.
mean, it's not just like a few hundred. I guess it'll be several thousand of people potentially. Who knows?
Not necessarily.
Oh, right.
We're actually maybe thinking about, because it's the first one that we're doing
Yes.
for the World Council for Health British Isles, first one, we might actually limit it to 100.
Right. So, in other
So
words, get
getting
in
quick.
quick. Brilliant. Okay. Fantastic. Well, if it goes well, presumably it will be something you can roll out again and again.
Yeah, and what we want to be able to do as well is to bring it to venues so
Yeah.
that people have that person. You can't beat the person-to-person experience.
Yes.
Zoom is
Absolutely.
great, but it is second best. So we want to be bringing and, let people be communicating and connecting with each other, all, without judgment and just having a fabulous time.
Fantastic. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Be quick is the obviously the thing here on the 15th of March, which is coming up very swiftly. So do check out the description link. And for those people watching on a smart TV, I often get this. They said, "Oh, Richard, I can't do it on my smart TV." Well, you may have to use another device like a laptop or a PC or even your phone, presumably. But you don't need any money, so that's quite handy. Maureen, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about it and sharing your knowledge of mental health and something not for people to be frightened of because the answers are out there.
Yes, just see it as your project. You are so important. Everybody is important, and it's a project and an opportunity to shift what you don't want.
And that, yeah, what could be better than that? And then see the results. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Maureen. And thank you to you, viewer, watching this. I will be back with more wonderful interviewees and, of course, my monologues. But until next time, from Maureen and I, check out the description, get on the link, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.